I'm not a Dragon Age person. Never really been invested in a franchise like, say, the fans themselves. In fact, I played Dragon Age. I can't remember the one I played for like maybe a few hours. It was a nice experience, but again, it's an RPG that requires a lot of time and effort, and having not played the others, I just said, man, perhaps maybe I need to basically go back to playing my Tom Clancy's The Division game. The announcement, or I guess the news just came out, that Dragon Age the Veilguard has reportedly missed EA's expectations by 50%. Kami has it here from Bloomberg, and a statement from Game Over 30. This is a Twitter user that also runs a podcast who shares a lot of information from the business side that I like to from time to time hear what he has to say. Says, as it turns out, my market prediction for Dragon Age the Veilguard was 3 million units. That matched EA's very reasonable expectations, and it sold half of that. Dragon Age was a household name when it came to gaming RPGs. I have to imagine this is going to cause EA to take a look at the cost base. Another user and longtime audience member also of the channel said, I guess maybe a game like Dragon Age or even the Arkham games have to be perfect, because we've seen how these games came out, huge production cost and huge production value put into them, and they basically bombed. Now, the unsaid and the unspoken in all of this, ladies and gentlemen, is the fact that this game was made for not the Dragon Age audience. We gotta call it what it is, guys. We can talk cost basis all we want, but ladies and gentlemen, this game, if it was written as a solid RPG, it should have at least done well on Steam. Steam is where you dump your RPG, and if you do well, you market it well, you write it well, the game is going to sell well. If we go to the top games of 2024, I mean, I don't imagine Dragon Age not being able to make in a category or close to a category where Baldur's Gate 3 was doing something nice the second year in a row. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine losing to Baldur's Gate 3, early access Baldur's Gate 3? I guess if you make your game for the wrong audience and you don't channel and program your game correctly to appeal to the audience that you previously had made the game for. So this Dragon Age was a fourth game in the entry in the series. So who did they make it for? And why did they not buy it, right? Let's go ahead and look, and you'll see that the game ranked somewhere here in the bronze category, I think, yes. This is with games that are basically doing sales of about maybe what they did, I don't know, maybe across the board. If Game Over 30 is saying that they targeted about 3 million and they sold 1.5, we probably have to split it across the board. But Balatro, which, I would say was in this category in last year, and after the Game Awards basically has shot up now and has reached 5 million units, its gross revenue is not going to be as high as, say, the $60 game, or even V Rising, the $40 game, which hit also 5 million units. So Dragon Age the Veilguard at the $60 price point, hitting that 1.5-ish million or whatever, structure, is still going to be okay, but it's sitting right here with Sekiro from 2019 in the bronze category for a brand new EA game. What in the world is going on when Fallout 4 and your brand new RPG that has lineage, legacy, is launching and, basically fighting in the same category for revenue in the very same year? This is a fundamental problem from a creative side. We also found out that one of the spearheaders of the game also has left the studio to go pursue other opportunities. Well, I guess maybe their work is not profitable, and the reason these companies are here to play is so that they can make profit. And this basically, in my opinion, leaves a blow, another blow anyways, to EA in this category. Because again, ladies and gentlemen, you got to think about EA. EA makes majority of their money from live service games. They take the effort, they jump in, they work on making these games, right? They work on bringing these games to everybody. But then at the end of the day, what happens? It doesn't pan out the way people would like for it, for the way they would like for it to pan out. And so you're more than likely going to see them eventually start to dwindle down these particular numbers. Regardless of what it is that you think about, all of this stuff, EA is not necessarily suffering. However, they feel like their efforts, if they cannot get good creatives to either be efficient, effective, or at least appealing to the masses, that they might just fold it up and then make these generic games every single year. EA College Football 2025, was the highest selling game last year. What do they have to worry about, right? If they can churn out another EA College Football 2026, yes, there's cost, there's licenses, and all of the others that they have to share. But again, they're not mad because FIFA is doing well. Any EA game and Madden games as well are also doing well on all platforms that they're available on. I guess maybe on console at least. And so I bet you, ladies and gentlemen, that this is probably going to be something that they're going to be looking at very carefully, because if you think about Immortals of Aim, you think about Dead Space Remake, you think about this Dragon Age game, you think about whatever, I bet you those folk at Mass Effect that are making that game right now, they better be looking for all of the fan service that they can find within reasonable reach to be able to get that game, basically fired up, get fans fired up for that game. This Dragon Age game, ladies and gentlemen, even with all of the remedies they tried to make at the end of the day, it just seems like it was not enough for them. This is Bloomberg's Jason Schreier article. EA says booking slid on weakness in soccer Dragon Age games. Electronic Arts said booking fell $2.2 billion in the third quarter, ended December 31, missing forecast by $2.4 billion to $2.55 billion due to weak performance of two holiday games. The Redwood City, California-based publisher, in a preliminary statement, when they reduced projected bookings for the 2025 fiscal year to a range of $7 billion to $7.15 billion. Its previous guidance was for $7.5 to $7.8 billion. Keep in mind, majority of this is coming from the live service games, Apex Legends and all, 70-ish%. That was a statistic I heard somewhere. A YouTube video that somebody was doing about the video game industry. I'm yet to find paper sources, but correct me if I'm wrong. Bookings from live services, revenue generated after initial purchase of the game, will decline by a mid-single-digit percentage. The company had previously expected a mid-single-digit increase in bookings. Well, y'all missed out on that. EA pinned most of the blame on its soccer title, EA Sports FC 2025, which released in September 2025 to mixed reviews. The company introduced a refresh this month. I've said it before. The moment they lost that FIFA name, it was going to do a little bit of a damage, because people were used to the name. The naming convention was very important. Not saying that it really affected much, but in their minds, or for some strange reason, even I myself, and I was a FIFA fan for the longest time, for some strange reason, once I saw EA Sports FC, I was like, this feels like a diluted soccer game. That's the first thing that came to my mind, even though it's the same experience. It's weird, right? Especially because the soccer thing is more like I don't know how to explain it. If you're a soccer person, you kind of know what I mean. It's almost like the naming went from Premier League to B League, and even if it didn't affect the nature and the content of the game, but it was just like that. The Premier League used to be called the EPL, then it became the BPL, and I mean that was a different thing. But in my mind, that kind of warped me for a little bit in that regard. All right. This says the role-playing game Dragon Age of Veilguard, which came out in October following a turbulent development cycle, reached 1.5 million players during the quarter, missing the company's expectations by around 50%. We remain confident in our long-term strategy and expect a return to growth in fiscal year 2026 as we execute against our pipeline, Chief Executive Officer Andrew Wilson said in a statement. The company is scheduled to report more complete results on February 4th. Now, things could still be fine and dandy. They only missed by a few billion. Boo-hoo. But at the end of the day, I think this one game really does serve as a lesson for the creatives. The creatives, they probably need to start doing stuff like when the creatives jump into their game development cycle, they need to start pulling them into business buy-ins. Maybe they do, but I don't know how often that is done and how well that affects them. Perhaps they have to also start coming to a place where they hang a lot of their compensation as well on the profits. Perhaps it'll motivate them to actually take a very close look at the customer base and the audience. I don't know why creatives these days feel the need to want to be careless with expensive IP that could be easily profitable by just the least effort that they could take in pleasing the fans. But in many cases, they take the most effort to try to upset the fans. You know what I mean? Like they spend more time trying to make their fans run away because they came into the franchise and they think the franchise is not shaped in their image. And boom, what do you have? Missing 50% of its target with the household name. That is just absolutely wild, ladies and gentlemen. Talk to me in the comment section. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.